What's going on, everybody? I hope y'all can hear me okay. Those that are in, I'm going to start up here in just a couple minutes. Thanks for waiting. And yeah, we'll get this show going. All right, what's going on, everybody? Hope y'all can hear me okay. If anyone can't hear me, please let me know. We're going to go ahead and start this video now. I do have a guest coming on. I assume he will come on within time. I'll be a little bit busy right now. Again, if someone can't hear my voice clearly, just let me know. My roadcaster is acting a little bit funny tonight. But yeah, shout out to people that are in here. Thomas, Sylvia, Mouse. Yeah, you guys all saw Kermit. He wanted to make a grand appearance as well. So, I thought I'd let him show up for a while. But yeah, hope, like as I said, everyone's doing okay. We're going to get this show on the road. So yeah, guys, thanks for coming in tonight or this morning, wherever you're at. I really wanted to make this video because, there's been some news going around, circulating regarding Sacheen, right? And how she was accused of being a fraud, a fake. And I kind of just wanted to discuss what's been going on in a little bit more detail. Obviously, I'm aware that there was appropriation going on, which I don't support, but there are some things that weren't made clear in regards to her records that I think I would like to just point out. But yeah, anyway, I wasn't able to make a video last week. I was just a little bit busy. We all got life things going on, but I do my best to crank out some content. So that being said, speaking of cranking out some content, I did make a community post last week about a word search, and I think I'll show that here. Let me just pull this up through share screen so y'all know what I'm talking about. And I just thought that maybe someone would enjoy it. Maybe if you have like kids or whatnot, or you're just bored. So I'm going to show you all what it looked like here. I don't know if y'all can see my screen. So this is essentially, the title obviously is IP. All the words are hidden vertically, horizontally, and this is words that I have here. I have Indigenous names of tribes and communities. Arawak, it's all in alphabetical order. Guachichil, Guarani, Hopi, Muskogee, all these names of communities, languages, across the Americas. I thought it'd be really cool. And if you got younger kids or whatnot, maybe you'd want to introduce them to this. Again, it's just it's free of charge. I just want to do it just to be nice. Of course, you have other words from IP, decolonization that we use, detribalize, Indigenous podcast. I don't think I added in here anything funny at all, but I just thought I'd show it to you guys. So if anyone's interested, just shoot me an email. So what's going on, Dexter? So just a little word search. Again, welcome to the new people that are coming on right now. I had hoped that our guest would be on, but again, he might be a little bit busy. So we're just going to get on with the show. Let's go ahead and show, obviously who we're talking about here. Again, her name is Sacheen Little Feather. Now, obviously, I'm going to assume everyone knows the controversy of what's been going on, right? And essentially, that is that Sacheen is, I believe, she was raised in the U.S., California, and she took on the appropriation of identifying as a Yaqui and also White Mountain Apache. Now, the woman that had dug into her records to find out about this, her name was Jacqueline Keeler. I don't really know that much about her, but what I was surprised about was that she had, and her sisters had, started this investigation and whatnot, and revealing about her identity literally right after she died, which, to me seems somewhat immoral, to do it right after a person passes away. But that's just what they did. It's on my call. So let me find an article really quick, kind of discussing more in detail of the criticisms of Keeler and others that are, just roasting up this. Oh, hey, before we start on that, we got our guest here. Savage,
how's it going?
Welcome. Hey, it's good to hear you. I was going to ask, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You didn't miss much. Was just telling our guest here about Little Feather and just how she's been criticized after her death. Obviously, IP doesn't stand for the appropriation of tribes, and I've always said if you're gonna reconnect connect to your roots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't I guess LARP as some tribe. That makes everything look really stupid at that point, and you look bad. Right. But that being said, obviously the other things going on with her is that we'll get more into it in detail. It's just Miss Keeler's research, so to speak. Her she went a little genealogy study of Little Feather, and she found that her ancestors were not native, but again, I'll bring an article about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was that she found that they were white,
right,
and Mexican. I was like, well, what the heck is Mexican?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that's what
Yeah, that's the flaw in Keeler's study. And the more I observe the behavior of certain people like Keeler, the more easier it is for me to like really poke holes in their logic when they try to oppose detribalization, just people wanting to reconnect to their roots, right?
Mm.
Um, but anyway, yeah, Savage, welcome to IP. This is your first time on here, so I hope you have, I guess, enjoyed the first few minutes. If you want to, like, maybe uh, say, I guess, your name is Savage, or like where you come from, if you're like where in the U.S., maybe just to give our guests a little bit of info. And if you're not like, you
Yeah.
don't feel cool with that, that's completely fine too.
Yeah, no, I'm actually located in LA, Southern California. Um, and I was just actually catching up more on that article. I had actually gone about halfway through, and really what it comes down to is just it's more of an issue with her claiming several different tribes from the Southwest, Apache being one of them. Um, but as far as the whole pretendian label that she slapped onto her, that's not. That's basically saying she's not indigenous at all. um, but yeah, no, I mean, she went to great lengths to really dig up her background, and yeah, it doesn't look good. Trying to attempting to appropriate, I guess, or even try to pass herself off as a any sort of nation here. But like you said, she is Mexican. She does have those roots. So I mean, yeah, she may not be anywhere from the states, any at least any registered tribe here. But if she is Mexican, and from what I've read, like she has some ancestry going back to Mexico City, which is uh, ironic. Well, coincidentally, it's where I'm from. I'm actually from Mexico City. Um, I mean, we all know. Well, you both of us know that Mexico has alone just in the country itself, we have quite a large population of full bloods. Probably I'd probably say one of the largest in the whole Western Hemisphere. And obviously not. It's this whole claiming where we come from, or at least claiming to be indigenous, is kind of it's starting to catch on more these days. Not a lot of us like to. Well, we've always been shamed in admitting that, right? For a long time, we've never we try to disassociate ourselves due to history, of course, from being claiming indigenous at all. We've always been. It's always been about claiming being mostly Spaniard or mestizo, or so that's. But so in Sacheen's case, she's obviously you can tell that she is a Native American descent, and for her to be what this is 1970s, for her to be doing that, that's pretty radical for the time, I would think. But yeah, that's what I got for now. But I did read a lot of the article, and it looks like it's really well researched. But who knows? I mean, from at least from what I've heard is that she's been this the writer. She's had a Sashina, in her sights as for being questionable, like questioning her heritage for a long time. I didn't really know why she came after her after she's passed away already. So why come out with that information now? It's kind of like leave a dead person alone. That's all I
Yeah,
got for now.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, why do this when she's dead?
Yeah.
Like, why not try to, like, talk with her or discuss, some sort of like debate or argument? Just reach out to her for Christ's sake. But obviously, she can't defend herself. Um, but
Yeah, there's a
yeah,
lot of
mm,
there's so many things that yeah, you can go and research the whole thing with like she did. Looks very thorough, but yeah, there's so many nuances about being white, or claiming white, like her dad. I was looking through some of the she makes some arguments about voter who could vote in the early 1900s. um and yeah, like for all we know, they were claiming white in order to have certain access or privileges that registered members of any tribe didn't have at the time. So I mean, we all know that uh, claiming mestizo was better than claiming to be full blood, full blooded native. So uh, yeah, that those are the nuances that are left out of this. But I think that really the main issue is this: the writer um, just questioned the tribes that she was claiming. Really, it's not. I mean, I think there is one section where she does give her the benefit of the doubt, at least on her Mexican side. It almost like she kind of leaves that alone. But I got the impression that, well, that she probably knows Mexicans. Mexican is correlated to being indigenous, but again, that's not what she was after. She was mostly after um, Sacheen, her claims as to being Apache at least.
yeah. Well, the thing is, to add on to what you were saying, it was just like the sister said that she was like white, right? And if you look at like some of the YouTube videos about her, they say that she was like a white person or a
Hmm.
Spaniard.
Right.
And there's so much like uh, so many like, complications with like the identity of a Spaniard, right? Because essentially, if you look back in history, right, let's focus on the wars between like the Spanish and the Indian people. And if you look back at like the 1600s, the 1700s, shoot, I mean, the who was it? The guy named Tupac Amaru, the second, I think,
Right.
he led a war against Spain, the Spanish Empire that had invaded his lands. What I think some historians fail to take into account is that like the Spanish won that war, but there's really no mention of the fact that, and this was an article I read. I can try to find it. Like 90% of the Spanish, quote, were actually Andean people or mixed Andean people.
Hmm.
They weren't Spain, so they would be thrown under like what in a category as white or Spanish.
Hmm.
Well, another thing is that like people of the Middle East, Arabs, are put under the American census as Caucasian or white, right?
Right.
But obviously, like in my personal opinion, I don't view people that are from the Middle East or Arab as the same as like white Americans of Western Europe. They're completely different, in my opinion. So yeah, there's just so much, I guess, nuance to that. So to say that she was just like a white person is silly to me. Um,
Yeah. I mean, also the thing that stuck out is apparently her sisters were interviewed, and they both discredit her.
mm,
Um, but we also don't know that relationship too. What sort of relationship did she have with her sisters? That's um, that's another thing that we just don't know. So I mean, if it was, I would imagine that her sisters might, maybe they're more of that mestizo mentality, where they just maybe saw her what Sasheen was doing as radical. As I think even I've run into that with family members too, where like we're not indigenous, we're mestizos, we're white. Like what the hell? Look at yourself in the mirror. We're not white.
yeah. Well, that and there's a couple videos that I watched where this guy like went to, I think, the Dominican Republic, right, and asked them like what they like saw themselves as. It was
Yeah.
Cuba or the Dominican Republic, and a lot of them are like look of mixed like Native or African descent,
Yeah.
and they themselves said that they were white. They called themselves white. So it's just like that word is passed around so much on who's white and like who's not. Um, that like when it got to that point with Sachin, it was just like kind of ridiculous. Well, that and the sisters were
Mhm.
on board with her, saying that she was native, right? And then they flip flopped. And
Mm.
when what's her name, Keeler came around, they changed and said that she was actually like white, right? So how are we so certain that the sisters are telling the truth when they have beef with Little Feather? But before I address that, yeah, Ancient Americas, shout out to him. Did Keeler ever state why she didn't interview her when she was alive? No, to my knowledge, I couldn't find anything. I looked through some articles, but she didn't say. And she said the sisters reached out to her first. Mind you, that Keeler didn't she go to Little Feather's funeral
Yeah, yeah, she did. She was.
to take pictures?
She had her camera practically shoved
Jesus,
in people's faces there. Like, I mean, that itself is very extremely disrespectful.
that's really disturbing.
Yeah, yeah.
Who does that? Oh my God.
So, I mean, I get trying to protect actual people that are of of the U.S. like that are registered or even non-registered, um, but yeah, that's extreme. That's uh, yeah. Who knows what if she had some personal vendetta, or it almost seems like it to go to those extremes of showing up to someone's funeral and doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's just really disturbing. I mean, I read an article, and I think I have it saved here, of, there's some controversy behind Keeler as well. Uh, some issues that she got into. I can find that article. I mean, I have it actually saved in here, so we can share it later.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind, I'd like to share the article that Keeler wrote, and it was about Little Feather, and then we can just point out the inaccuracies
Hmm.
that Keeler presents. And I believe it was the San Francisco newspaper that shared it. Let me see here. Where's it? I think it's this one. I hope it's this one. Okay, the San Francisco Chronicle.
Hmm.
And let's see. And this article is written by Keeler. I'm not going to read it really, but I wanted to go to the point where just things aren't very clear. Um, okay, here it is. In this paragraph, she says that all the family's cousins, great aunts, uncles, grandparents, going back to about the 1880s, when their direct ancestors crossed the border from Mexico, identified as white, Caucasian, and Mexican on key legal documents in the United States. Okay, so she's comparing white, she's adding white and Mexican in there.
Right.
Basically, an ethnicity and the race of a person. So
Yeah.
that should already tell people that what she's saying, isn't adding up. Let me finish this here. None of their relatives married anyone who identified as Native American or American Indian. But yeah, just like you said, Savage, was
Mhm.
just that like people in that time weren't like proudly. Many of them weren't calling themselves Native, right? Like
Right.
they call themselves mestizos, even like straight up like natives that don't have any like European or ancestry or anything, right? They would go into this mestizo category. Um, so all of their spouses also identified as either white, yeah, Caucasian, Mexican, white Mountain Apache tribal officials I spoke with told me that they found no record of either Little Feather or family members being enrolled in White Mountain Apache. So yeah, I think that should tell readers enough, or like people that like follow this channel, is that there's some like there's BS going on in her reporting. It's not accurate.
Yeah, yeah, like it
Oh.
just we don't really know if they had any sort of interaction at any point while she was alive. Uh, I mean, I figured she would have mentioned something if that were true. Um, but I got the impression that she. Well, actually, no. I've been told that she has a list of other people that like she's targeted for uh, making false claims, pretending to be part of certain tribes. But I don't know. I'm not too well informed on this particular person, the Keeler's background. So I mean, if she went to the great lengths to look into Sachin's background or family history, um, then I guess she has that she's known to do that. I suppose to other celebrities, anybody who's high profile. I don't know if you know anything about that, but I mean, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. Well, I apologize for cutting in here. Savage, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Hey, everybody, I'm having a little bit of a technical issue right now. My screen has decided to go white, completely white, which is really unfortunate. So I might have to come out of this podcast and go back in. I have to just start over really quick. Again, everyone, I apologize for this technical error. Um, I will try to solve this like immediately. Again, Savage, sorry.
Okay, no worries, man.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. I'll just want to give me just a couple minutes after we start.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Okay, that was weird. Hope y'all can hear me okay. This video is still going. Hey, can everyone hear me okay? All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, my screen went like completely white, and I had no idea what went down. I know you guys had a few questions. I was trying to get to like the name of the article. I think Ancient Americas you wanted to know, and let me get that really quick. I wanted to get that the link of the article itself. And of course, I'll say the name here. Sacheen Little Feather was a Native American icon. Her sisters say she was an ethnic fraud. So let me copy this. And again, guys, this is written by Keeler herself. So just gonna post it. Hold on. Copy. Paste. Okay. So yeah, if you guys want to check that article out, again, it's written by Keeler herself. Again, her genealogy study is not sound, in my opinion. Savage, thanks for coming back. Again, apologize. Did anyone have any questions so far? We'll move on to the next article. Just going to go through some comments if anyone had anything. Just want to look. Now, yeah, Sachin sisters are saying that they're not native, but want to know the great journalistic integrity that Jake had. Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know, like why wait till when she's passed away? It's quite odd to me. But Savage, you gonna add anything?
Uh, Well, like I mentioned before, for Sacheen to have claimed her Native American roots or her heritage, regardless of where she's from, for this, that would be considered very radical for the 1970s. And so at least there's that respect. Uh, yeah, I think that in itself is commendable. Um, what else? There was something else that I wanted to touch on. I mean, that I don't know how much you read into what Keeler wrote, um, but yeah, there's just so many things that you have to consider. I mean, I saw like a lot of the people I get that on her platform that probably agreed with her based on their comments. And but I think, yeah, again, you have to really just consider so many nuances, that it just depends on what your stance is. If you really just think about, read between the lines, and if at least with Mexicans, for the longest time, a lot of us have always identified as mestizos. Um, and even in man, even in at least where I'm from, I've known that uh, there's this thing where in Mexico City, when a lot of the this is probably early 1900s, when people from small villages would go to Mexico City, a lot of them would, to try to avoid discrimination, they would claim mestizo, even if they were full-blooded indigenous. They would put mestizo, and then they would become, then that in the census, it would boost those numbers. Like, there was more mestizos than there was full bloods. And so, we come from hundreds of years of that background of claiming that. So I mean, it almost makes it seem like there's really no full bloods left. But that's just doesn't really have much to do with this, so much with Sashim. But that's just to kind of give the audience more context, as to where we're coming from. Or even, I could go as far as to discuss, like, um, that you can say like the war between the U.S. and Mexico. Whenever, and if you read the articles, the stuff that's available online, it's always the U.S. against Mexicans, or even the conflicts between, you could say, Geronimo and Mexicans. Mexicans, yeah, you had probably some mestizos, but you also had some criollos, or Spaniards born in Mexico, and they're basically being labeled Mexican. So there's those things that are still not cleared up in the history books yet. So we still have a lot of work to do there. Back to you, Marcus.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's really complicated, I think. Like, when you get into like the depths of like mestizo, right? And like, what is mestizo? Like, you have pretty much, as you would say, full-blooded like natives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like natives with like complete native ancestry, like 100%, that also fall into the mestizo category. Like, so even the word mestizo itself, there's complications to it, because you like wonder what is mestizo. Because if you go to Mexico, if you go to Guatemala, you will see like just straight up like
Yeah.
natives that have like 100% like ancestry, right? That still like fall into like the Latino mestizo, but mostly for like cultural reasons. I met someone when I was in Guatemala. I was in talking with a taxi driver, and he himself like views Guatemala as like an extremely indigenous country. He
Mm-hmm.
views the word Latino as quite, it just doesn't make sense to him.
Mm-hmm.
regardless of course, they practice, the a non. I don't know if you would call it like a non-native culture, like Latinos, like it's somewhat westernized in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he still views those people as native, despite the fact that they don't practice an indigenous culture. Um,
Right.
so going back like to the word like mestizo, right? Like a lot of these people that are mestizo, well, not a lot, but some are like again like straight up like indigenous native people that just aren't connected to the indigenous culture itself. So again, like instead of that, they're practicing the Latin culture, I guess you could say. Um, anyway, I think I lost Savage. I'm sure he'll be back. What's going on, Dexter? Okay, Savage is back on.
Go ahead. Huh.
But I hope what I said was clear, like made sense to you guys. That's just kind of the perspective of again my taxi driver friend, my friend that explained his view on just the native and mestizo identity in his eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there was this article here. It's from SBS News. It goes a little bit more in depth with the genealogy research.
Mm-hmm. I have to throw this out there that
Sure.
we've already seen a few people cover the story about Sacheen, and we definitely. I mean, I actually like one figure is Dr.Grande. Uh, that a lot of some of the stuff that he said sounded like his own, like more personal opinion, almost like he himself was disappointed that she would be claiming like different tribes based on the information that's available. But even, I mean, even guys like him, they're not perfect. He has really good content. But I feel like definitely a dialogue between him and those of us who are putting in the work, doing the research, who understand uh, you know our culture more, and just a lot of the racial issues that exist among us. um, we'd have to have a good dialogue between each other to help at least people like him understand why Sacheen would have made claims. Maybe even she herself just had limited information at the time. She was maybe just going off of what she had been told. Who knows how much research she did on her end. So there's all those things too that people who are covering this are probably not thinking too much into. So it's disappointing. I'll have to admit that, but again, we have a lot of work to do on making informing people who are really not well, who don't know all of these nuances to our issues.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, like going back to what you said, I do want to understand like the psyche of like certain people. For example, Shashin here on why you would choose to appropriate like a tribe that you don't really have any connections to. Like, was she like pressured or just decided to just do it for like fame? Um, of course, it's obviously bad, but I try to understand the reason why these people do this. But I think Savage, you said that you wouldn't say that she's a pretendian in that way for appropriating a tribe, even though
Uh,
like clearly like she has native ancestry, right? And that is deserves to be like
with Mexico, it's complicated. We don't know. At least the article. I will say that Keeler's article sounded very well researched. Like she really dug into her background, but but we don't know. Like the stuff that sounds very ambiguous is like her dad claiming white. For all we know, he could have just been of that mestizo, like really self-hating mentality. You know, like that he would put that in there. Um, uh, I don't really question her that she is at least Native American, but from Mexico, not necessarily from the U.S. So it just gets really like that part is what most yeah, I don't think a lot of people fully understand yet is that a majority our population, at least south of the U.S. border, that a lot of us are that we're just disconnected. We don't know necessarily where we come from. We're our percentage might be is maybe low, like at least in the northern states of Mexico, the blood quantum of natives tends to be lower than it is for anybody that's further south, like more in the southern states. So it just that issue, that whole thing is a whole conversation all on its own.
Yeah, true. I just try to like think of ways that like that could be reduced somehow, because
Yeah.
it is ultimately like damaging and bad, for native communities and tribes. For example, myself and like others don't like claim to a tribe really because
Mhm.
we understand the power that colonization had on our ancestors. Unfortunately, some people don't want to recognize that colonization happened and our ancestors were thrown into this Latinization, forcefully, right? And
Mhm.
hence why they go under the name of mestizo, or like now it's like Hispanic or whatever. Um, and then they're taught through the education system by parents that native bad and like mestizo or whatever else is good. It's the unfortunate truth that I wish more people would understand.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you said, we just have. There's a lot. There's still so much more work that needs to be done. Um, but we just have to do our best to put the information out there. And now with the internet being very common, so at least at least from the time that I started uh, quote unquote reconnecting, which was around 2009, um, till now, yeah, we've made pretty big strides, and more people are talking about it. But that is social media or it's the internet, so it might seem when you're around it might seem like there's more attention to it, but we're still in a pretty small community that have all this information. So it's still there's still so much more to go, more room to grow, and for this to reach bigger platforms and for people to want to give it more attention to.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Savage. Actually, I wanted to share something really quick before I forget it. And this here was a tweet from what her name is, Aurora. I wish I could like make that bigger somehow. But essentially, this woman here is saying, anyway, here's a photo of Teresa and Wilson. So Cruz, they're Sachin Little Feather's great grandparents, right? And they're both listed as white on the census. Again, it goes back to like, what is the identity of white?
Right.
Clearly, these people are not of European,
Mhm.
Western European descent. Um, so again, like, sorry, we're gonna say Savage.
No, no, no. You're absolutely right. Yeah, these. Um, yeah, I mean, clearly to someone who's Anglo or Germanic descent, this is clearly not a couple that come from anywhere in Europe.
Yeah, like there's so many people that go under the name of white currently right now throughout South and Central America. So I just hope we're able to get this information across and point out, the problems with covering certain genealogy tests and just marking white and just assuming that they're white, right? When
Hmm.
clearly it's not all that it's led up to be.
Yeah, yeah. It's um, we just well, hopefully, all this work that you're doing with podcast, that you can eventually get the attention of guys, of people with larger, much bigger platforms to have these dialogues with.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that would be great. I hope for that in the future. um, I hope to be more active as well. Making videos and whatnot. But yeah, that's planned. I do have plans on reaching out to a couple more people that I think are more well known.
Hmm.
It's just getting in communication with them, right? And then seeing where that goes from there. But
Okay.
yeah, Savage. That being said, we're about. I guess I wanted to keep this under an hour if possible. Did you want to add anything else, Savage, to this?
Uh, well, the only thing I will add is that um, yeah, being that I mean, the whole purpose of this, of why we're here today, is really to more in defense of Sacheen Littlefeather. Just because we felt it unfair that she's being, uh, basically, her indigeneity is being questioned. Um, you know, when she has no way to defend herself now that she's gone. And um, yeah, it's I can't really speak on her why she would claim uh, at least White Mountain Apache when there's really no evidence uh, on that she is. But at least we can say that her being Mexican and looking at her grandparents, looking at her parents, that we know that she is of Mexican descent, and therefore she is not a pretendian. She claimed that well, she was indigenous, whether she was from here or she was, back in Mexico, and that's all I'm gonna say.
No, I appreciate you adding your points. Yeah, I mean, definitely like her native ancestry is clearly like present, right? Like even though like the test that Keeler presented um, said that she was like white, right? But I think Keeler, from what I read in her article, it seemed like she was trying to just make the connection that she was like not with any tribes, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so she's right, but she said Mexican. Well, what the heck is Mexican? So
Yeah.
this is where you start to poke holes in people's logics, and it wasn't hard when I read that. I thought that would appear in an article, and it did. Um,
Right.
so that being said, before we take some questions, I did want to share this one article, and it just kind of like describes the genealogy. I guess you could say like the inaccuracies um, of Sachin. Let me bring this article up. Okay, I think this was the one here. Um, so there's people that said that like Keeler gave an inaccurate like genealogy test on her. But here's where I wanted to cover is like, why the topic of native ancestry is complicated. In a column, I'll read this. In a column for Variety, deputy editor for the In the Know by Yahoo, Laura Clark wrote that the issue was more complicated than many people think. The Muskogee Cherokee woman said, I don't presume to know about her, Little Feather's tribal connections, but what I do know is that she has been a strong, voice, Native community and has created space. Okay. But still, like, again, and I want to make sure I make this clear with like my audience that it's not good to appropriate tribes and communities, despite like whatever work you might do. Anyway, also, since citizenship requirements vary from tribe to tribe, the connection in her tribe's call, not mine or anyone else's. Not only that, what many people don't understand about native existence is that some natives aren't enrolled, right? And then some natives are reconnecting to their tribes. Some natives don't have enough Indian blood to register because of blood quantum minimums, and some natives have their tribes nearly erased to the point that organized citizenship records simply don't exist. Um, so yeah, I think I just wanted to like just make that point clear that the whole concept of like white itself in genealogy tests, when you're talking about native people or people of South America, it gets very rocky and complicated. So yeah, I just hope people understand. I hope that this picture, the Twitter picture, didn't cover the article. Did it, Savage? Or
yeah,
oh,
there's
it did. Oh, dang
yeah,
it.
it did.
My bad, guys. Well, you guys could hear what I was saying. But darn, let me take this off. Anyway, anyone have any questions at all? I'm happy to reread the article if you guys want me to. That was my bad. Still getting used to everything, I guess. Yeah, I'll stay on for like a couple of minutes if anyone had anything. But yeah, it's quite the story, about what happened. And I think that obviously there's a serious problem with, pretendians, like straight up like white or black people or whatever, that are like appropriating tribes. Again, like going back to the previous video I made of like people taking resources, taking on positions in native communities when they have no business of doing that. It's bad. It's not good. And those people deserve to be called out. So yeah, if anyone had anything, I'll give it like another minute. But yeah, managed to keep this under like an hour. So not bad. You know what I can do? Savage, did you want to talk a little bit like when I close this podcast out? We can chat it up for like a few minutes later.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. In that case, guys, if you didn't have any questions, I do plan on getting a video out for next week. Let me leave this StreamYard link. You guys want to join us, like talk with us for a little bit, you're more than welcome to. But I think we're going to wrap this podcast up. It's somewhat short, not the usual like 3-hour ones, but, I'm glad I could give some content for you guys. Yeah, stay tuned. Welcome, new person, Sanich. And yeah, guys, I wanted to thank you all that left comments, that wanted to participate, discuss all of that. I really appreciate it, as always. So I hope you all have a good night or a good morning, wherever you guys are at. Man, the comments still keep on coming. If you guys want to talk to us after like the link, the link after this is over, you're more than welcome to. But I'm going to end this now. So you guys have a good night.
All right. Thank you, Marcus.
See you guys later. Yeah, of course. No problem.